Thank you. There's two things that I want you to know right up front. One is that I'm not dressed as Steve Jobs. I just look like this. And the second is I've been in San Francisco for about 15 years, since 1995. And in almost all of my jobs have been in Soma. And almost all of my houses have been on the N-Judah line. So I have this kind of... Oh, N-Judah? Right on. So I have this kind of ongoing love-hate disturbing relationship with the N-Judah. And we have all had the weird experience on Muni, clearly some weirder than others. But like you've had the Muni crazy moment. Like there was a guy who used to get on with a little teddy bear, and I wouldn't have remembered him except the teddy bear was in a little tuxedo, and he would walk around talking to people, but it wasn't him talking, it was the teddy bear. So he'd be like, "Hello, what's your name?" Did you see that guy? Do you know that guy? Because I saw him a lot. He was a frequent on the N-Judah. There was also another frequent person who was noticeable because she was enormous and seemed to worry about people staring at her. So she would get on and go, "Don't you look at my tits!" Just the first thing. And I swear to God, one time, teddy bear guy got on the front, and "Don't you look at my tits" woman got on the back. And they were like antimatter and matter heading, they were like neodymium magnets heading towards each other. And there was a thing that happened, and at some point I looked around and everybody on the train was like, I think they got off together, honestly. My other favorite Muni moment that I remembered while the performers before me were talking was one time I was here with my dad and my stepmom came to visit me, and I wanted to give them an authentic San Francisco experience, which includes Muni naturally, but I thought, what's the safest thing? Okay, the F line. So we're gonna go downtown. They're cute, they look like caterpillars. How bad could it be? So we're on the F line, we're going downtown for dinner or something, and I'm standing with my dad and my stepmom is here, and this kind of really drunk homeless guy comes over to my stepmom, who's like in her 60s and blonde and from Michigan, and he comes over and he goes, the train was about to stop, he comes over and he goes, "This is your stop." And the next thing I know, my stepmom has exited the train with the homeless guy. And my dad and I are like, "Where'd Barbara go?" Oh, fuck! Like, so you put my hand in the doors and no, don't listen to that man. This is a different stop. So we all know what it's like to witness the crazy on Muni, but what I learned in my evolving relationship with the N-Judah is that you can actually have a relationship with the crazy from above. So I spent 9 years living at the corner of Carl and Cole, where the N-Judah comes out of the Sunset Tunnel. And that changed our relationship, I have to admit. Before then, I was really, I loved the N-Judah. She was clean, she was nice, she took me to work. It's fine. But living above her meant certain things to your life. It meant that you never put wine glasses too close together in the kitchen. Because every 10 minutes, when the N-Judah rumbled by and the entire building shook, it sounded like the worst xylophone music ever, like the whole kitchen cabinet. I still don't put things too close together. It means you get really fast at making excuses, so when you're on the phone and someone goes, "What the fuck is that outside?" You go, "Oh, it's the giant robot." It's a giant robot battle. It happens here in San Francisco. It's just a thing you get used to. But the most important thing that you learn is to know what the proper sounds are, right? There's the ooh, and then the and then the and then the and you could recite it with the train as it comes by. We were living in the front of the building, single pane glass, cheapest landlord you'll ever meet. the walls were painted whatever color was on sale, you know. I think they were salmon or snooky colored. Cheap-ass place, loud Muni. So we got used to it. It just kind of fades into the background. But when the sound changes, all of a sudden when there's a different sound, you become very, very aware of when the pattern changes. One time when the pattern changed, the sound of it coming out of the tunnel was just a little too high. It was a little too fast. So Heather and I go rushing up to the front windows, and we're on the 3rd story, looking down. If you've ever come out of the Sunset Tunnel, going to Ocean Beach on the Enjuta, and glance to your left, there's Vieira and Friends Hair Salon. We lived above there on the 3rd story. Right, yeah, we heard you. Thank you. The sound was different, and so we look outside, and the train is coming out of the tunnel way too fast. And where the tracks turn, the train does not. And it hops off the train and goes across the street. And there's a moment where, by the time it takes you to go, it's going to hit my house, it actually had to stop at the sidewalk right in front of our house. And there's this moment of absolute quiet, right? But that beautiful moment right before everybody realizes something terrible happened. And then all of a sudden, all of the windows pop open and people start jumping out of the windows. And my first thought was, God damn it! I have always wanted to pull that lever. You know, you sit there every day on the way to work staring at the red lever, just like, oh, someday I'm just gonna, you know, you don't pull it because you're not a psychopath and you're not in an accident, but oh, I really wish. And those fuckers got to pull the lever. Nobody got hurt. It's okay to laugh. The other sound that was unusual that happened a lot was when somebody parked in the red zone in front of their house. Now, there is a red zone in front of that building. And the reason the red zone is there is because when the Enjuta going downtown turns at that corner, the giant metal ass of the giant metal robot monster swings into this space at such a force that it could probably knock a baseball into the bay, right? It's fast, right? Yeah, that was just the most World Series reference you're going to get tonight, so enjoy it. That was too easy, people. Okay. So, I know that you don't park in red zones. You guys know you don't park in red zones. But there's something about drivers in the city that just makes their brains fall out of their tailpipes. Because I can't tell you how many people parked in that red zone, right down from where we looked. And I had great fantasies about chucking shit out the window, but I never did that. So here, when you park in that red zone at Carl and Cole, where the Enjuta goes by, one of 3 things will happen. Number 1, a truck will come and tow you away. I saw this, we lived in that house for 9 years. I saw this happen exactly 0 times. Which leaves the other 2 things that happen. And it depends on the kind of driver that you get. The kind of driver that doesn't give a shit, they're going to hit you. And we saw so many cars get hit. We saw a Porsche 911 get smashed in. We saw like a 1940s perfectly restored Roadster that Muni liked so much it grabbed the bumper and dragged it into the Sunset Tunnel. We saw windows blow out of a motorhome. We saw a van with its door open and the driver sitting in the driver's seat get hit so that the door was smashed forward. That guy got out of his van and ran, chasing, yelling at the Muni train into the tunnel. I'm sure that worked out really well. That's the thing that happens. Then there's the third thing that can happen, which is that the train stops. And it blows that God-forsaken horn that every time I heard it made me jump out of my... Every time! No matter how much you get used to the sound, you never get used to the horn. And at that point, either someone comes out doing the walk of shame from Burgermeister in front of angry people in the train, you know, just like, oh God, I'm really sorry, I just didn't know. Or nobody comes out and the train just stops, and after a few minutes the driver goes, well, fuck it, and turns off the train, opens the doors, at which point dozens of very angry people come out onto the street in front of our house. And at that point, where there had been a loose affiliation of rich and poor and different colors and different ages, now they were banded together into one community, solidified by their hatred of whoever's fucking car that is. And this wave of bad karma washes over the apartment, right? Everybody's pissed. The people on the street are pissed. The people in the car are pissed. The driver doesn't give a shit, whatever. But people, and nobody can drive by, blah, blah. But once, in the 9 years, once, I saw the most beautiful thing that I have ever seen, that I still think about in those times when I just am losing faith in my fellow man. And it was this. The crowd of angry people staring bullets at the car. One guy stood up and said, people, we can do this. And he walked over to the car and put a hand under the bumper. And then another person. And then another person. And soon there were 12, 13, 15 people with a hand under the bumper. And he went, 1, 2, 3. And the car lifted up like it was fucking on wires. And drifted over and was deposited perfectly onto the sidewalk. And the Muni driver got out of the train, looked at her, went, all right. And everybody got back on the train, and they went on with their fucking day. And I like to think that the people on that train felt a little bonded, you know, a little more together. But in truth, they probably went back to their newspapers and iPods and went on with their day. But I still think about them. That the power of one guy to stand up and say, people, we can do this.